Hey everyone, I'm back again. I have not learned my lesson. It's a little later today. I think it's like 8 o'clock, and it's already hot in here. Can't handle the sound of the air conditioner, so I'm going to see if I can get through this without overheating all of my equipment. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about Frontier and sort of like where it started. I've been working on this one for a while. It's mostly been sort of in like the previs planning stages from kind of the beginning. It's a big project for one person to do, and I have so many little projects that make up the rest of this environment that I'm building. And so it's something I've just been kind of thinking on for a long time. And so in, I want to say 2014, I got together with an artist briefly, and the idea was to try and kind of get like a sense visually of what I want out of the project and something that I can look at and sort of remind myself like what I'm trying to effectively aspire to. And so we talked about the character of Charlie and the fact that it's like in the Northwest. I wanted to have like a certain mood and tone. So she put together this triptych for me, and I still really love this. I mean, you'll see, like, I took out some of the foreground and I used that in the background for these videos. Those might change, but for now, that's what I'm using, and you see it on the front page of the website. And I really love these. I mean, you can see even from the beginning, I was using this sort of like idea of like a bear skin as like characterization. I think originally the idea was that it's like one of the first things that she does is she hunts that bear, or maybe it's something that you get later. But it has since become sort of like pajamas. I really like this. I like the one on the right as well. I like all of these. I like the one on the right because it's sort of like a different approach, like something more traditional Americana from the time. And so the idea behind Frontier, when I was calling it Frontier's Edge, was that it was set in the Pacific Northwest in 1810, which was a couple years after the Lewis and Clark expedition had ended, and just before the next batch of people went from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so my idea was just that you were a scientific expedition. You were there to catalog like regional flora and fauna and just sort of get the lay of the land and create maps and make sure that things are safe for people to come out. I've since changed this, as you probably saw in other videos, that it's now set far in the future. Part of this is cultural, part of this is technical, and part of it is just like gameplay issues. For one, like the character needs to have a primer, and the primer is like a magical sci-fi book. And so why would she have one? So that's why it now has to be set in the future. Also, you can't really do much with native populations or really any kind of culture that is not your own anymore. And so there was no amount of research or sensitivity that I could show that would make that acceptable. And so it's unfortunate because there are some really cool gameplay things I wanted to do with that. But for now, and going forward, it's a sci-fi game. And so after, I had to go and make more Arcadia games. And then a couple years later, I came back with a coworker of mine at the time, and she put together some concept art that I could also work from. Um, and so this is Charlie. Once again, this was sort of like early on when she had come to the region and she had, met the locals and started learning how to like make their clothes and started dressing like them. Um, a lot of the stuff is still kind of the same. You're still exploring. You're still looking for like learning about regional plants and animals. You're still harvesting berries. You're still hunting animals. Um, because it was a military expedition, essentially. The leader was the like a lieutenant in the army. And then you had a botanist with you, and this is my favorite character design of Becca's. And oh, I should say that the original ones, the ones I showed at the beginning, um, these were done by, I don't know if I mentioned that. I may have to cut this out. Um, and these were Becca Masters. I don't believe she's working in this field anymore. But yeah, I really love this botanist design. You can still see it in the current version of this character. Um, we had French fur trappers, and then these are the ones you would trade with. And I really wanted to do a mechanic where, depending on who you're trading with, be it like British soldiers, native Snohomish people, or the French fur trappers, you had to use their native currency. And I wasn't going to just tell you what the exchange rate was. You were going to have to figure it out, and if you paid too much, you paid too much. I think that's a really interesting idea. It doesn't really fit with the current story of the game, but maybe when you move to a different area later in the game, we can still do something like that. And so one of the things I was really excited about was having like the native spirits, and these are based on the mask designs of the Snohomish people. We did a lot of research. We went to museums. We went to people who made the masks, and we really looked into this stuff. So you would meet these guys, and I really love this hummingbird. You would befriend them and do quests for them, and if you behaved in a way that was synonymous with like sort of their worldview, like the coyote is like a trickster spirit. I don't remember if it was a coyote, and I think that's more of like a Midwestern thing. It's been a long time since I've had this conception of the game, so I'm starting to forget some of that stuff. But oh, it doesn't matter. So yeah, if you befriend the bear, he'll give you the bear mask, and then now you can use that to like climb trees and pick up heavy things. Or the crow. I think maybe this is what I was thinking of, is sort of like a trickster spirit, and it'll help you find like things hidden in the environment, sort of like in Secret of Evermore, you had a dog that would find this stuff for you. Then the wolf would help you hunt better. It's pretty cut and dry stuff. Oh, where'd my files go? Oh, so I guess that's all of them. And so I thought that's some really cool stuff in here. I have a lot more, but these are the most interesting, and it would just be kind of redundant to get into it any deeper. And so for a long time, this is all I had, was just these character designs. And then the conception changed to be more of like a far future. We can talk another time about different sci-fi influences. There are certainly things I've read since designing this that I've found to be fairly similar. A lot of Larry Niven's work covers the same sort of themes I'm interested in, but we can look at that probably in later videos. And so I want to say like 4 years ago, I had a whole summer to myself. There's not a lot of work in film in the summer, so I find myself with a lot of downtime. I mean, this year we're on strike, so don't even assume I'm going to work at all, because I can't. Mm. Um, and so I put together like a 3-month prototype, and I had a girl, I think her name was Megan Taylor, make me a little Charlie character, very cute, sort of like little pudgy looking. All of these assets are from different places that I purchased. So like these trees are from I want to say Time Fantasy. I believe the animals are also Time Fantasy animals. Some of like the bridge I think is from that pack as well. I believe the grass is from Kenny. These characters have been replaced. I actually have an earlier video from a couple years ago where I was talking about this, and that might be the better one to learn about this specific prototype, because I've since updated a lot of the characters and small parts of it that ended up sort of breaking the prototype. This was always meant to be temporary, just to kind of try out different things. And so, unfortunately, that's really the only way to see the original character walking around and interacting with things. Because I did some work with, I'm not going to use his real name because he goes by a handle on Twitter, but Pixel Pigeon, a really cool guy, has done a lot of character work for me. And so this was the new version of Charlie. She runs around. She can still like pull out her book and scan something and then bring up the information on it, and you can choose to harvest it, and she'll pick it up and all of that stuff. And so this prototype is fully functional. I'd say it has every piece that is necessary to sustain this kind of game, except for farming. I didn't think that was really worth my time because, we all know what farming looks like in a video game, and it's kind of a lot of work. And so, we've got characters, they've got little idle animations, they're very cute. This is the botanist, you can tell by her outfit. But if we look around, we can see, the animals will run away from you if you get close. If you bring their HP, okay, this one doesn't seem to care. Um, oh, I got him. Uh, Sad. Let's see, what else do we have? Got a day-night cycle. This character up here has a meditation mini game that you can play. If you go to chop down trees, there's also like a little mini game I was trying out. Um, you can scan things to learn about them. I think I already showed you that. So one of the things about this prototype I was trying out. So one, the question is like, if you have the opportunity to walk up to an item and scan it and read like a little article about it, I think conceptually it's a really interesting idea. But will people do it? Like, is that something people are actually interested in doing, or is it just sound like something cool? And so this, I had to build out this prototype to even know if any of this was a good idea. And what I found was that people not only want to scan things, they will scan everything in the game. Um, I've watched people spend a half an hour just walking up to every single plant and every animal and every tree and scan every single one of them, even though I think the lupins, which are these, which I think I talked about in the last diary, I think these are the only ones that say multiple things, yeah, about each one. And so each one gives you a skill point for biology, or I think it's for botany specifically. Um, and there's just a lot of like little things. Like I said, you should watch the original video if you want to actually get really into this. So one of the problems with this prototype is that if you look at the map, it's pretty big. You know, it's not big enough to really sustain the level of interaction that I want in here. Like, there's a lot of different plants and animals, right? Like, I think these are the alders. One of the problems with using assets is that they're not ever really exactly what you're looking for. All you can really hope for is like a facsimile. And so in this case, like, these are alder trees. They don't look anything like alder trees. I don't remember what these are. I think these are the oaks. Or maybe these are, cherry trees, apple trees, pear trees. I think these are chinkapins. Um, Maybe these are the chinkapins. I can't keep track. There's a lot of plants in here. Goldenrod. These are dandelions. So we've got squirrels, and these are all specifically like regional animals and plants to the Pacific Northwest. It's specifically like the Puget Sound region where I lived in Seattle. Um, Golden berries, gooseberries. Maybe not gooseberries. I don't remember. I've got this character. We'll talk about him in the influences section. But yeah, like the part of the problem with this is that the map is so big, and I made a fundamental mistake where it's all one big map. So anytime I would save this and upload it to like backup on like Git, each time it was like a huge file. It was like hundreds of megabytes that I was now having to write over because a scene file has to just be replaced. And so it was taking up all of the space. And it was taking a really long time to load. So I realized I really have to redo this. And all these animals are animating all the time, walking around the environment, acting crazy, walking into walls. And really, the way something like this should work is that you've got these little boxes, right? And you walk into the forest, and the forest loads up. But since this was a prototype, I didn't worry about any of that stuff. I was really more focused on trying to get the saving to work, to get the characters to run away, or to be able to trade, or load your inventory, or all that stuff. And so, the UI is just like scrapped together. I mean, this looks like garbage. Um, there's a couple interesting things in here. I guess I can mention like you have different stats in this prototype. You've got health, you've got energy, and you've got focus. I think this is energy and this is focus. And so each one of these things, oh yeah, and there's a day-night cycle. Each one of these things affects the things that you can do. So like when you're harvesting, I don't know if you've ever gone berry picking, but you kind of have to focus a little bit. You're looking for the right berries. It's kind of tiring. Anytime where you're doing any kind of activity for a long time, it becomes like sort of emotionally exhausting. And so I represent that with focus. So, you might have the energy to chop down a tree, but if your focus is too low, you're going to be less accurate because you're, just tired. And so energy is something that you rebuild with food and with time. And focus is also rebuilds over time. But if you sit down and play the primer for a minute, you can rebuild your focus, right? Because you're having to focus on something real yourself. And that's part of that sort of like um, deconstructing abstraction idea I'm working on with this project. Um, and so, this is probably like a 20-minute prototype. We can go back and you can see like the idea has always been sort of the same. You start out in this house, and then the city would be over here, but I never got it. I'm not really great at map design either. That's one of the reasons that I haven't put as much work into this part of the project as I probably should, is that I really struggle with environmental design. It's just not my skill set. But you wake up in the house, you get your items, you take the little train, it takes you across the desert into the forest, and you meet all the characters, right? That's it. How the game is going to start. That's how it's going to be from here on out. And so I think this prototype really, accomplished what I was trying to do, which is to figure out, like, is this something that anyone would actually be interested in playing? And I think it answered that question. So now what I'm doing is a brand new prototype, and I think I showed a little bit of this last time. And in this one, um, I have a new set of assets that I really like by Lime Zoo. I'll put his work in the description below. But, oh, she's acting funny. Come on. There we go. Um, this one, I'm focusing more on the like specific unique aspects of Frontier, namely the fact that you can, select things with your primer and scan them and learn about them. Click on them. Here's a fact about acoustics as it relates to piano. I can click more and it will load up the primer. Will load the primer now. I won't do it. And then you can do the entire um, workflow of how Frontier is really supposed to function. And part of that that's really, really difficult is what does a UI look like for something like that? Wikipedia is an analog for kind of what I'm trying to accomplish here. But Wikipedia doesn't really look great. It's it's an encyclopedia. It doesn't have to look great. It's got to be an article with links and pictures. But this is like an entertainment product, especially if you're going to be giving it to kids. It needs to be engaging. It needs to be colorful. It needs to be logical because it's not a reference guide. It's a contextual guide. So, clicking on the piano will bring it up, but you also need to be able to, search for piano because if you're not in the house, but you still have like, oh, I want to know something about acoustics as it relates to pianos, like you should still be able to get access to that. Um, I might be mistaken. Maybe it's best for it to be consistently contextual. That's one of those things that you really just have to try out yourself. So I've had these sort of like conceptions about the UI from the beginning, and if you look at the actual website, I've got these tabs that you use to get between things, and so I'm trying that out here. I actually don't really like it. I don't think this is going to stick. I'm still trying to figure out like what are the actual tabs that you need to have access to? What do they have in them? What do the quests look like? What does the inventory look like? Like what does the primer look like when you just load it up by itself, right? And so I have not, so I know it does not look good. I just started. So bear with me. This is something that I've learned from game production that if you show someone a prototype that you put together for 5 minutes, people treat you like this has been your life's work and that you're not very good at it. Like you can't just be like, oh yeah, hey, I'm just putting buttons in places to see how they feel. They don't get it. So don't judge me, uh, please. The assets, like I said, these are all from Lime Zoo. I'd say 90% of this prototype's assets are from that, except for the characters and even the UI. Like these elements are a pack that he has as well. I recommend picking them up. They're very affordable. They're great. I really like these. These floorboards, like all of this. The furniture is wonderful. He's got so many different buildings. You can do a whole city with it, and that's the reason really why I picked it. Is he has this whole section of you've got city streets, you've got exteriors, you've got interiors, you can do shops, you can do bedrooms, you can do like a Japanese garden, the kind of stuff that, is a very small part of the way the game works right now. It's mostly about the environment and about ecology, but the city is something that comes after. And so one of the challenges for this is maintaining a level of consistency because if I make a forest that looks good and then you go to the city and it doesn't look the same and it doesn't look good, then I'm in trouble, right? So this pack, I will slowly start to filter it out over time. I prefer to use original work for what I do, but it's going to take a long time to get to that point. So for now, this is great. Definitely buy his assets, even just to help him out. Um, so this prototype is going to be very limited. I'm not trying to build out all of the things in the previous prototype. I will be explicitly working on UI and the primer and these like little interactions, right? So for now, if you mouse over the tree, it brings up this reticule, and then that's how you know you can scan it, right? But you can also walk up to it, and well, that's from the piano. Like I said, still working on this. But like, what do the buttons look like? Like, what's a logical way to interact with the environment? These are not easy questions. Everyone approaches this a little bit differently. I mean, you've probably played games that superficially look or feel like this one, and they all have different inputs. They all have different ways of thinking about the environment. And what I struggle with with this is the biggest challenge for Frontier is that um, if it's supposed to be like an encyclopedia, then everything needs to be interactable. And then to what end, right? Like a tree makes sense that I can scan it, but this wall is made out of rock. Like, does that mean I can scan every piece of the rock? Probably not. Like, does the reticule appear over it? Can I walk up to it and press shift and then it'll show me all of the things that I can scan? I have to try all of these options out because I really don't know. Some of them are going to be really challenging to implement. Some of them are probably going to be like a week of work and then find out it's not good. This is why, prototyping alone is really difficult. Um, I kind of prefer it. I like to just be able to knock things out and throw them away and not hurt anyone's feelings. But it would be really helpful to have, a bunch of people trying different options and then we can come back and look at them later. Um, but for now, like this entire prototype is going to take place within this like little block, right? Here's that bus station that you saw at the house in the first prototype. It looks like a bus stop now. And then the vending machine, I'll put some items in here. I think that's the last interactive element that I'm going to put in this little section. And then the rest of it will be entirely figuring out, what does it look like to scan a grill and then make some meat on it, right? Like, and that's a whole person's job. So that's what I'll be doing for the foreseeable future. The videos won't all just be about that because some days there's just going to be me staring at a square and wondering what color it should be, and that's not particularly interesting. So I'll also go over some Arcadia games. I might even make some new ones because simple Arcadia games are actually very simple to make. I can usually knock one out in a day or two if it's streamlined and I know exactly what I want. If I'm trying to make chess, that takes a little bit longer. So yeah, I mean, that's Frontier. I'm looking forward to working on it some more and, bringing the animals back and doing all of that stuff. Uh, as a reminder, you can become, if you can help out this process, you can help me bring on more people and survive through the rest of the writer's strike by becoming a member at moonlightpress.games. And, try them out, tell your friends, maybe tweet about it, subscribe to these videos, and I will see you next time.